I want to briefly talk about the scale. And if you are like most people or myself, you probably weigh yourself throughout the week. Maybe once a week, maybe 3 times a week, maybe every day, maybe even twice a day. But the scale is something that our society has become so accustomed to relying on to tell us if we're succeeding or not. And unfortunately, the scale does not paint the whole picture. The scale tells us what our relationship is with gravity at a certain point at a certain time of the day. And what happens when people go on their own nutrition or fitness journeys is they tie their success to whatever the scale is telling them. And they base their success on whether or not they're hitting certain numbers that they expect themselves to hit at the end of a certain time period. But what happens is every time we step on the scale, we have this roller coaster of emotion because it either confirms, what we want to see, or it essentially tells us the opposite in that we're not making progress or we're going in the wrong direction, or maybe we maintained weight and we view that as a failure because we should be losing weight. And I think that's bullshit. And along this process, we will be weighing yourself, and we are going to be taking maybe daily measurements on the scale, and body measurements, and looking at body fat percentage for some of you, or maybe skeletal muscle mass, how many pounds of body weight you have of muscle mass. All of that is useful information, but it's not what I want you to tie your success to, because you will be forever on this hamster wheel of trying to hit certain numbers to be happy once you hit those numbers. And in reality, the scale doesn't tell us anything, right? It doesn't tell us about our energy. It doesn't tell us about our sleep or our mood or our hunger or our stress, right? It doesn't tell us how we're performing during workouts or what our energy is like during workouts, or if we're having a 2 p.m. crash, right? It doesn't tell us what our sex drive is. It doesn't tell us what our blood markers are. There's so many things that the scale does not tell us. And the point of this message is I really want you to use the scale for what it's worth, which is just getting a piece of data that we can use as feedback going forward. And I do not want you to tie your happiness to what the number on the scale is telling you, because that's just a recipe for disaster. And honestly, nothing will ever be good enough, because there's always going to be a weight that you want to see that you're not at, that's going to be taking away from your happiness and from your success this far. So at the end of the day, on your check-in forms, yeah, we're going to ask you about weight, but more importantly, I ask you about a whole lot of other things. Call that biofeedback, because that's what your body is telling you. And I think that's far more important, and I want you to think that that's far more important than what the scale is telling you on a day-to-day basis, or what a weekly average is over the course of the week. Because the scale is not always going to be our friend, or it might be for a day, and then it could be our own worst enemy the next day. So if you've been caught in that loop of weighing yourself daily, dictating your emotions and how you view that day based on what that number has told you in the morning or before you go to bed, we're doing this all wrong, because this extends so much more than what the scale is telling you. And I just want to let you know that we will be focusing a lot on what your body is telling you instead of what the scale is telling you. So keep that in mind, and that's something that you and I are going to be working on a lot. But if you take home anything, it's that the scale is a tool, and that is it, okay? The more you tie your happiness to that, the more upset that we're going to be over time. And again, this journey is far beyond what the number on the scale is going to be telling you. So always come back to that. Always remember that. And always appreciate what your body is actually telling you, okay? Because progress is measured in so many other ways than what you see on the trend line on your weight sheet, or what the scale is telling you on a day-to-day basis. So keep that in mind, and never let the scale take away your happiness, okay?